We've been talking with Corey Heidelberger about EB5. In case you haven't watched, it's a very intriguing. This is the stuff that mystery movies are made of. I mean, I can see Bruce Willis in this one.
He'll be playing me, of course, the intrepid reporter.
Undoubtedly, the most exciting guy on the set. By the way, before we started these segments, I have conceded the IQ barometer to my friend Corey. So intellectually, I'll kiss your ring.
That sounds gross, but I appreciate the acknowledgement. What would you like to talk about, Gordon?
Let's talk about EB5 and the guy that many people are referring to as Jupe Bolin, but that's not the right. That's not who he is.
People in the know tell me the proper pronunciation of Joop's name is Joop Bolin.
Joop Bolin.
Yes.
That even sounds fun.
It's a cool name. I'd consider it if it weren't associated with an EB5 Go-Ed scandal that would bring my child shame for generations.
The interesting part of this EB5 chapter with, is it Joop or Joop?
Joop.
Joop. Yup. Okay. Yup, it's Joop.
Joop.
All right. Is that when he left his office, he carted up all the files.
Yes.
Now, there's some indication that maybe some of those files are boxed up and found their way back somewhere, but we still don't know what's in them or if he's even returned them.
Right. Well, and the paper trail on that, the boxes we're talking about, you have to go back to December 21st, 2009. Up to that date, South Dakota's EB5 program was conducted as a state agency. It was called the South Dakota International Business Institute, SDIBI. It was a branch. It was located on a Northern State University campus in Aberdeen. It was a branch, an entity of the Board of Regents, so it was basically a state agency. On that day, Joop Bolin resigned his position as executive director of the SDIBI, packed up virtually all the records in the office and took them off campus. So says President Smith, of Northern State University. He said in a letter earlier this year, I think at the end of last year, that virtually all the records had disappeared. He couldn't respond to open records requests because Joop had taken the records. Supposedly, and I've heard sources, and I apologize, I didn't bring the whole file with me today because I didn't want it to fall into enemy hands, but supposedly, as the state conducted its investigation, its audits during the past winter, I've heard that those boxes may have come back to the state. But it's all very black box because, of course, they aren't going to show us those papers.
But why
I'd love
not?
to see those papers.
Why wouldn't those be open so we can look at them? I see in my mind, I see a picture of Richard Nixon in the White House, and this little reel-to-reel recorder is going, and all of a sudden, when that comes out, it blows the lid off.
Well, we've heard a lot of smokescreen about this. The basic game I see is that, again, go back to December 2009. That was when the folks running our EB5 program officially moved it from an entity on a state campus to a private corporation. They even underbid the salary for Joop Bolin when they made it a private corporation to below the $50,000 threshold. If they'd offered to pay him more, then they would have had to submit that bid to public record. They made sure his salary was just under that, $45,000, so that we couldn't review that bid, so it wouldn't be a matter of public record. Moving the whole thing private was a matter of trying to keep those records quiet. So basically Joop and then Richard Benda and the others involved, from what I can see, to allow them to do their actions privately and claim that they weren't really public records and that those magic boxes weren't really boxes that you and I should be able to look at.
Well, is your assertion then that during the time that it was under state control, that they were beginning to do things that they didn't want to be seen, or that perhaps they wanted to do things that they could keep under cover of darkness, so they moved it from being a state-run organization? Is that what you're suggesting?
Without trying to read Joop's mind, and oh heavens if I could, Joop Bolin put the wheels in motion in January 2008. He created, incorporated in 2008, SDRC Inc., the private company that he was getting ready to run EB5 with. He wrote up a memorandum of understanding between himself as director of SDIBI and SDRC to allow SDRC to start doing EB5 stuff. The end of December was just kind of the culmination, the full moving of this program off the public books and into the private secrecy area.
Interesting. You know, when you make an agreement with yourself, at least you're not always conflicted. So
True.
at least he was on the same page with himself.
But that's the game you have, where Yope, director of a state agency, creates an understanding with Yope, the director of a private company, and it's all the same thing, but all these different legal tentacles that make it really hard to follow what this story's about and who's up to what.
And we don't have time today, but it certainly raises the question what really went on behind those closed doors.
It's a long campaign season. We've got a lot of time to have that conversation and find that out, Gordon.
All right. Stay tuned.